It is an honor to be here because, when I first took office back in 2012, January, my first day in the office was, Honor Vet program, which I think is a phenomenal program. And but it was tough being a veteran myself. It was a tough thing to do because I stay away from that stuff for different reasons. But I saw a need when I started talking to people in the audience saying, hey, I remember this guy. And I go, how'd you know him? And he goes, well, I didn't really know him, but he affected my life this way, or he did something different. And I go, wouldn't it be nice to kind of hear that while we're still around, to have someone say, hey, you really changed your life? Because I always say we shouldn't be looking up to politicians and movie stars and rock stars and saying that's our way of life, but we should look to the ordinary neighbor and the person that just lives their life day in and day out, and that goes out into this world every day and leads by example. Because that's who our kids look up to. Like these four gentlemen behind me to the left, that's who they look up to. Saying, look, they served their country with distinguish. They came back home, and they could have done nothing. They could have sat home for the rest of their life and said, I'm done. I made it home. I made it home in one piece, and I'm done. But they didn't. They actually set the roadway for the next generation. They set the trail so we could find our way through and live in the world that we live. Freedom isn't free. And a lot of people don't realize that. We take it for granted, our way of life. We take it for granted, everything that we do, because you know what? We don't realize the sacrifice that the people made that didn't come home to the families.
It's not just the service that you provided to us as a country to maintain our way of life and our system of government, but it's also the example you set for people on a day-to-day basis in your families and with your friends. From those of us who haven't served, it's clear that there's something different about you and what you've learned through your training and through your hard experiences. And it is an example through character that you provide to the rest of us. And on behalf of the Congressman, I'd like to thank you all for that, and particularly to today's honorees, Mr. Lemme, Mr. Calabrese, Mr. Hamilton, and Mr. Regan. So again, thank you to all of you here, and thank you, Mr. County Executive. And on behalf of the Congressman, thank you all.
My father started his military service on December 15th, 1944, at the age of 17 and halfway through his senior year at Albany High. He was with the 28th Division, nicknamed the Bloody Bucket, which merged with the 2nd Division in Europe partly because the 28th had been partially wiped out in a previous battle. He landed in Le Havre, France, and then by truck, all of the servicemen were at the front line to begin fighting in the Battle of the Bulge. He remembers one night just before being in battle, they slept in abandoned factories only to wake up to find donkeys because the snow was so high the soldiers couldn't carry their own supplies to the front lines.
Thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure to see you all here. Thank you.
He went to San Diego. From there he went to Hawaii, and from there he was at Iwo Jima. At Iwo Jima, on March 3rd, 1945, a grenade blew up in front of him and riddled his body with shrapnel. From that was pretty much the end of his service. For that, he's received a Purple Heart, all kinds of, he's got a whole little list, and I'm very sorry I don't have the rest of them. After the service, when he came out in 1945, he married Jane Serafino in 1948. From there, he continued to have children. He had 3 of them, 2 girls and a boy. He worked with his family business, which was Lemmy's Market over on Lark Street, and he also had Lemmy's Archery, and they started several companies outside of that, so he was very busy with the community. One of his favorite things was working with the archery, because his thing was always about safety, so he had the safety courses. He liked to have the kids come in, and he would work with the children to give them something to do. When you're in the inner city, it's tough. But there was a lot of kids that had interest, and he always made sure that he took time to take care of all them.
Well, I want to thank Darlene. She's always extended herself to help veterans. Of course, we meet pretty regular anyway, but she's always done an outstanding job. But I thank you all for being here. Okay.
As Dad got older, he started revisiting his time in the Navy and his war service, and he got to know the VA Center a little bit better. And as he was down there at his appointments, he started seeing a lot of other vets, many of them with injuries and needing help just getting up to the hospital. And he decided he wanted to help. So he became a volunteer driver and drove the shuttle van around the parking lot, picking people up, bringing them to the hospital, taking them back to their cars. And he got to know a lot of the vets who became regulars of his, always watching for him to come and meet them at their car to drive them up. So as time went on, Dad got to know many of the other volunteers there, and he got to know members of the Patriot Guard Riders. This opened up a lot of other volunteer opportunities for him, and he started visiting more of the vets at the hospital, and over time decided he wanted to become one of them. So last year, Dad became a member of the Patriot Guard Riders himself, and now he stands at the age of 90 in flag lines at funerals, at honor flights, honoring the other vets that have gone before him and many of the vets who have come after. My dad, Art Hamilton.
Boy, this started out as a shock. All of a sudden, I see my name on a paper, and I'm getting phone calls, but I'm happy to be here. This is unexpected, and I appreciate it, believe me.
Tom came one day and shared his idea, and he had so much love, so much feeling, and so much drive to let us know that we needed to do something to remember those that have passed, that fought for our country. And he didn't want them to be forgotten. There was no way that he was leaving the office without us understanding why he was there. If you could, I still have the vision of that look on your face and the tears and the wonderful words. And I will never forget that. And because of Tom, who created with his fellow veterans, it's called Operation Please Remember Me, as Dan McCoy has introduced. And in a very quiet procession from Memorial Day until 4th of July, the flags lined the streets of Route 9 from the Albany City line to Waterville Shaker Road in the town of Colony. And with our Gold Star mothers, we proceed in the procession. And again, it's a very quiet procession, very quick, but the meaning of it is just so powerful.
I'll be very brief. There's so many people I have to thank. My loving wife, Barbara, 44 years, my son John and Katie, and my 3 sons, Tommy and Mike, and my beautiful family and daughter-in-laws and children. I would also like to thank this gentleman right here, Gene Leparco, and his wife Linda, for everything that they have done for our community. I would also like to thank Paula Mahan, who was the first person I went to over this, and I actually started at 77. And it originally came from the Vietnam group, and then it kind of morphed its way, and I had another meeting with Paula, and I said, I have something to tell you. I said, I'm getting calls from people from Rensselaer County, I'm getting calls from Saratoga County. She said, well, is there more people? And I said, yeah. I said, how much more? 500 more. Well, it's since doubled. We're at 1,228 men and women who gave their lives from the Capital District. So, on their behalf today, I want to say thank you to everybody, and I accept this award on their behalf, and God bless them and their families in this country. And thank you, Paul and Dan.